Hello and welcome. I'm Nila, and we are absolutely thrilled to have you with us today for another episode of NexusTalk. This is where we bring diverse stories to listen to, learn from, and be inspired by. So wherever you're watching us from today, we hope we can help you learn something new or even inspire you. Now, I know that wouldn't be difficult today because here with us in our studio, we have a remarkable role model for Afghan girls. Shukria Ganji is a skilled real estate advisor in the Greater Vancouver area. A mother of two with a background in hospitality, she specializes in home buying, selling, and investment properties. Shukria is dedicated to helping clients make informed and stress-free decisions throughout the process. Shukria Jan, I'm so happy to have you here with us today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So Shukria Jan, can you tell us about your early life experiences and growing up in Afghanistan? Are there any memories that strike out the most or that you remember the most?
Of course. I was born in Koboljan in the early 90s. And while I was very young, my family fled to northern Afghanistan, specifically Mazar-e-Sharif, due to conflict at the time. And in the late 90s, we were forced to flee Afghanistan altogether towards Pakistan because the Taliban were taking over the country at that time. So in terms of memories from Afghanistan, I feel like everything is in fragments of moving and starting over, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So I don't have too many solid memories where I feel like there are more bad days than the good in my childhood in Afghanistan. But regardless, it always holds a special place in my heart.
Yeah, that is very true, of course. I feel like everybody growing up or coming from Afghanistan, there's been a lot of moving around at very early ages, which takes me to my next question. You mentioned that you moved from Mazar to Pakistan, I think.
Correct.
And to Vancouver. How old were you and how was that experience for you?
So when I arrived in Vancouver, I was probably 8 or 9 years old. So going through sort of starting life from scratch 3 times over by that age, you learn a lot. And I wanted to touch on my experience of arriving at Pakistan, what happened there and sort of change the trajectory of our family life. When we fled Afghanistan and arrived at the Pakistan's border, the border guards sort of asked us for a large sum of money to be able to give us entry to the country. So that was all our life savings. At that moment, we either give everything up and, start life over in Pakistan, or the other option was turning around. And my father knew turning around would be a death sentence for us because the Taliban had taken over the country at the time. So we gave up our life savings and we entered Pakistan, like if you can imagine, a new country, new language, starting from scratch, literally. So with the help of some nonprofit organizations, such as the Aga Khan Development, they took us in and gave us sort of temporary accommodations until we could sort of stand up on our own feet. However, we went from being middle class in Afghanistan to all of a sudden living borderline poverty in Pakistan. So that, I think, changed the trajectory of my family life. And the skills of what I had to learn and sort of take on at a young age. So therefore, I don't have a lot of great memories from Pakistan either, unfortunately. But it definitely has taught me to be resilient.
Yeah, that I was going to say, of course, I went through the same experiences, but not as many movies because we went from Afghanistan to Pakistan and to Canada. But I was going to say that it has, taught me resilience in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
And do you think that you going through those experiences at such an early age puts you in a competitive advantage when it comes to your career in real estate and how you stand out from other?
Absolutely. I think, starting life from scratch sort of 3 or 4 times over at such a young age, it teaches you to sort of think on your feet, adapt to new changes, new ways of life, taking on new language, adjusting to culture in a new country, sometimes a new continent, right?
Mm-hmm.
So all of that are sort of early life skills that you build upon as you grow up, as you take on a career, or even start a family life, right? So of course, those skills have helped me have a competitive advantage in a highly competitive market such as the Vancouver real estate market, where there's with recent changes in zoning and bylaws, and policy changes. So there's always changes, right, in the market. So being able to think on my feet and being resilient and working through the changes, those are all a reflection of my early life experiences.
And I learned that your mother was a chemistry faculty member in one of the universities in Macomb. Is that correct?
Correct.
Do you think, I feel like when I heard that, I was very surprised because, it's not the traditional norm where you see a lot of educated Afghan mothers and in Afghan family households, right?
Right.
How do you think that, affected the education education as a value in your family and how that helped you throughout your career aspirations?
I mean, it's huge. It played a huge role. So little that people know is my grandfather actually owned an English dictionary in our household, and he would teach his daughters as English in Afghanistan. And when he passed on, he had books left to certain children in other languages, including English. So my mom was married at a very young age, but she went back to school to finish not only her secondary, but post-secondary as well after having 3 kids. And then she went on to have more children. So my mother is a career woman. She worked full-time in Afghanistan while having 5 children. And so she instilled a lot of values in us, including the importance of being financially independent as a woman and providing for yourself and not relying on, anyone else to provide for you. And honestly, my mother was one of the most beautiful women I ever laid my eyes on as a child. She had this long bleached perm hair, and she'd wear these nice, beautiful suits. She'd be picked up by the faculty vehicle every morning, and she'd go off to work. So maybe subconsciously that sort of instilled the idea in me to present myself well and wear suits every day for a living.
Yeah, I can see how that is a value as well that I see in you. But let's pause for a moment and listen and care about what you just said about having role models and having people that you can look up to, right?
Correct.
Because a lot of girls in Afghan family households, they don't really see their other women or even their mothers. That's very rare in positions of power. So thank you for sharing that personal story, Shukria. We'll take a short break now, but when we return, we'll talk about Shukria's career and success story. Stay with us. Welcome back to NexusTalk. We're here with the incredibly talented Shukria Ganji. Shukria Jan, what inspired you to enter the real estate industry, and what was your first experience?
So there wasn't really an exact moment where I thought, this is it, real estate's it for me. But there's sort of a lead up to a change in my career. First one being, I growing up and moving so much, I realized that my friends around me had friends that were like lifelong friendships. They knew each other from kindergarten days, from elementary school days. Because my family, A, moved from countries, like fleeing countries, and B, when we were new in Canada for the first couple of years, we were tenants for a period of time. So when you're a tenant, you're ultimately at the mercy of the landlord. So if the landlord decides it's time for you to move, you move on, right? So we're changing neighborhoods quite a lot. So I didn't have those lifelong relationships or friendships, you call it. So I was I've kind of been born having that. I want that for myself. It wasn't until my family purchased our first family home in Canada, and we ended up living there for an extended period of time, 8 to 10 years, is when we really started having those relationships with neighbors and neighborhoods and getting to know their kids and what they do for a living and, having them over and us going over. So that was sort of one and sort of lead up. And then in terms of my first experience in real estate, I knew it was a male dominated world, but I didn't know how much until I actually stepped into it. Before I switched careers, I sort of interviewed a few established agents in the industry. And to be honest with you, it's hard to find women, especially women of color, that are in the top performing positions. So while I was interviewing an agent, this gentleman, I said, hello, so-and-so, thank you for taking the time to meet me. Can you please give me some pointers on how I can start my career in real estate? And the first response was, or for his first response was, women typically have a shorter career span in real estate because they become mothers, and that takes away their focus from the career. And that was sort of a defining moment where it kind of lit a fire in me. And I thought to myself, I didn't escape the Taliban and travel across the continent to be told by another man that this is not the right career path for me, potentially. So there's nothing more than me wanting to prove this person wrong. So I wanted to indirectly thank this individual for letting that fire in me. And now my goal is to become a top, or do better and better.
It's a lot of those times when people tell us we can't do something, and we'll do anything in our willpower to do it. And so I had those experiences too.
Yeah.
But as I did some research, you started your career in hospitality, and you worked your way up from a banquet server to a luxury sales manager. And I want to pause here and respect the ambition that you had, because many people would, be satisfied or content with that position in their professional career. But you said, I want to go into real estate. So what was that turning point for you, other than that story that you just shared?
Yeah. So first of all, I have my academic background is business management, and specifically hospitality. So in the beginning days, I thought, this is it. I love the hotels. I love the hospitality industry, and sort of worked my way up. And a lot of people had questioned whether I knew somebody in the industry. Because everything, I started a very entry level position, sort of worked my way up over the years. It was all performance based. I didn't know anyone. It was just the connections I made throughout the years of working with the same people and proving my performance, right? So that was one. And then two, in terms of what was the turning point, it was all about planning ahead. I love the hospitality industry, but the next natural step would have been a director role, and then eventually a hotel general manager, both of which required people management. And I'm not passionate about managing people. I love working in team setting, team environments, but not necessarily managing the small in and outs of performance. So in order to do that, a few people had suggested real estate as a career to me, and that's when I realized that I can transition my luxury service from my hotel side into real estate and work with clients that way.
And also, during your career in hospitality, you worked with high net worth individuals in the luxury hotel industry, and you noticed a common denominator, which was they all were involved in some sort of investment in real estate. Was there a particular moment or conversation that really solidified this decision that I want to, be part of that group?
Of course. So, spending a lot of time with affluent folks. I mean, we're talking about people that have access to Black Amex credit cards with no limits, right? You can purchase a vehicle, a home with that credit card. So that sort of having that level of wealth, they have sort of this level of calmness that I lacked in my family because they were always on fight or flight mode, right? The experiences that they have, it was just all so new to me. Nothing really fazed them. So if there was, I don't know, gas prices increasing, things like that, it didn't really bother them, and there was this sort of calmness that I was like, oh, I really want that for me and my family, So I started kind of listening into their conversations of what they do besides, managing a company or things like that. So common denominator definitely was real estate. It was not just real estate locally, around the world. And as soon as they'd find out that I'm from Vancouver, they're very interested in what's happening in the local market in Vancouver. They had properties up in Whistler, in the Okanagan, Lower Mainland. So I think it made me realize that our city is sold in a lot of demand, not just locally, but internationally as well. And if affluent people like that are invested in what's happening in the real estate market here, I have to know the market as well. So my hope was to hopefully understand the market, help my family establish their roots here in Canada, and do the same for other community members.
I love the flow of this conversation because every answer leads me to my next question. So in hospitality, you had to sell the city to other people or visitors. Now in real estate, you're doing the same thing, but on a deeper level, I think. Would you say your background in hospitality also gives you a competitive advantage when it comes to real estate? Because I think real estate is a very flexible industry where people of different backgrounds.
course. Yes. Yes. I've developed a lot of soft skills from the hospitality industry, such as communication, establishing a good network around you, um, and being adaptable. That sort of has led to success in my real estate career. Being able to connect with people on a deeper level than just a transactional basis is huge. And you learn that in the hospitality industry. And selling the city and selling, but one key differentiator here is that when we're selling the city, we're selling it for a couple of days or a week, right? So in terms of like dollar amount, is a little bit different than when it comes to selling real estate, especially because our property values are here. We're living in one of the most expensive cities in North America. So real estate does require a little bit more onus on me as a agent to make sure that every dollar is accounted for when I am representing a client. But similar in a sense that you have to give great client service. You have to stay on top of the transaction, and you have to communicate well.
Mm-hmm. And I'm still thinking about what you just said in your previous answer about being in fight or flight mode and seeing how calm these other people you're working with were. Right? I guess this is something that a lot of us go through, but we don't really realize when we meet other people, and we just think maybe it's just part of our culture, maybe it's part of where we come from, but it's actually our experiences. How long did it take you to, get to that stage of calmness and really, get out of that fight or flight mode? Or is that even possible as of this point?
Great question. It is honestly, I would say since my career change from hospitality to real estate, it has really taken me, it's kind of like a journey of self-discovering in a way, in a sense that majority of small businesses do well because they have the community support. Unfortunately, that's not very true in the Afghan diaspora. So a lot of families do not trust working with an Afghan agent or Afghan realtor, maybe because of past experiences or something in our culture where we keep our finances and investments very hush hush. You don't openly talk about it. You don't want people to know what you're investing in or where your money's going or what your annual income is. So when I took on this role, I said, I want to change that. I want to become an established, trustable, reliable Afghan agent where I assist Afghan families reach their real estate goals and in return, they're supporting my business. We work together, more of a holistic approach, So that's how I I don't know, I hope that answered the question, but that's how I sort of discovered the fight or flight mode was to kind of tackle problem.
Okay.
To tackle the problem and put myself out there, right? To gain trust.
So in other words, getting to that calming stage or that calm and comfortable stage is when you help solve the problem.
Correct.
And you talked about the importance of community support. And I know that, the journey of finding the best career that you really feel like your best self every day in it is going to require a journey of self-discovery. Mm-hmm. But it's also not possible without someone who's there with you, who's cheering on for you. It can be a family member, a coworker, a role model, or a mentor. Who are some people you want to shout out today who's really helped you in your career?
Oh, there's so many people. It really takes a village to sort of do well in any aspect of your life. But I have to give a huge shout out to my husband. He, when I wanted to make that transition from hospitality to hotel to real estate, I picked up the phone and said, I think I'm going to do a career change. And he's always the first person I call, right? Mm-hmm. There was absolutely zero question of he didn't say, are you sure about this? Is this something you want to take on? And we had a mortgage at the time, right? Mm-hmm. So we were both, this was before kids, obviously. So we were both, somewhat financially responsible for our day-to-day living. But he, no questions asked. He said, I 100% support your decision. Take all the time you need to transition. I'm there for whatever shape or way or form that you need me. So, I mean, he's played a huge role in me being able to switch careers midway. And obviously my family, I think I have a very strong like sibling support circle. I'm the youngest of 5, so I feel like I have like 3, 4 mothers. Like all my sisters are always there for me. My brother, obviously my parents, and I have a business partner in Abidjan who was a young bachelor that has a lot of time and energy, which has helped me greatly when transition to becoming a mother. So yeah, that's my support circle.
Yeah, I can really resonate with that because I'm the youngest of 5 too. So I can see a lot of myself in you as well. But thank you. Thank you for that insight. We'll take a short break now. Stay tuned as when we return, we'll continue our conversation about Shukria's top industry insights and advice for anyone interested in real estate. See you soon. Welcome back. This has been so far such an enriching conversation. I myself have learned so much, and I hope all of our viewers as well have picked up a few things. Shukria Jan, you emphasize understanding your city as a key skill to real estate success. What are some under the radar trends in Vancouver that new investors should be paying attention to?
So there's lots happening within the last year, lots of policy changes. So what I would focus on as an investor is the transit-oriented neighborhoods. So a lot of cities already have the SkyTrain line coming or there. Now we're having this extension towards Langley and the Fraser Valley. So I'd focus on those areas because the land zoning has changed, which and it's a positive change in land zoning. Sometimes it's negative for us, but in this case, it's positive. So focus on investing in areas where the SkyTrain line is growing. And have over the years, you'll see positive appreciation of property values anywhere that the SkyTrain line goes to.
I myself don't know a lot about real estate, but I'm sure other people watching would really find that beneficial. You've also mentioned that Vancouver gets a lot of newcomers in 50 to 60K or BC overall. Mm-hmm. From your experience, how does immigration and this fact that there are a lot of newcomers coming shape the real estate market? And what trends do you foresee or foreshadow as the city continues to grow?
So immigration plays a huge role in both the rental and the real estate market in Vancouver here. Rental, in a way that newcomers usually rent for the first 2-3 years of their life here in the Lower Mainland before they go on to purchase properties. So it affects the rental markets. As an investor, we have a steady, a healthy rental market. So if you're investing in properties which you're not going to typically reside yourself, you can invest assured that you'll find tenants. And in terms of on the buying side, so these newcomers that do end up buying, they usually buy the entry level product, which is a $500,000 to $600,000 range or 1-bedroom apartment first. That's usually in the pre-sale markets. And then they tend to move on to townhome or detached home down the line. So I would say that newcomers or immigration influx into the province affects entry-level product much more than a detached or a townhome because they typically aim for 1-bedroom apartments first and then they tend to move on later in life.
Also, my favorite question.
Mm-hmm.
I know that a lot of people watching see a lot of themselves singing. Afghan girls, little girls, big dreams. Mm-hmm. But also it's great to pause and acknowledge the obstacles that have been in your way as an Afghan woman. Mm-hmm. So in your journey overall, from coming here, starting your dream life as a real estate agent, has there been any obstacles in your way? How have you overcome?
Yeah, so I think the biggest one thus far in my real estate career has been the lack of support group when it comes to other Afghan female agents. There just aren't many of us. To give you context, so in our brokerage office, we have about 200 agents. Of that, 7 of us are Afghans. Of the 7, I'm the only female agent, and the rest are 6 are all male. And then to take that further, so when you go into top performer events and award shows and galas, I have not come across any other agents, Afghan female agents to be specific. So I see other women of color or women in general having that support group of other female agents from that community where they kind of have a group, they can network, they can share their successes and learn from each other's failures. So I feel like I don't have that, unfortunately. So every time I'm on social media and I come across another female Afghan agent, I'm like, I'm always the first one making that connection. We're like, hey, we should like connect, you know, and tell me how it's going. Like, what have you learned? What's working? What's not working? So I feel like that's something that I hope changes. I'd love to see more African women in the real estate industry. I'd love for them to be in the top performing spaces so that we can connect and hopefully be there for the younger generation when they're ready to take on real estate as a career. So we can be there for them.
But I also want to thank you for paving the way for other Afghan girls who have dreams, because I think you're starting the journey for them, making that community. So thank you for that. Thinking about the future, where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years? Big breath. Future has a lot of uncertainty, but yeah, we always have.
Lots of goals. So I have like 5-year term. We're looking at right now. We set at 5%, top 5% nationally. I'd like to get us to top 1% within the next 5 years, inshallah. And then personally, I'd like to grow my family. We'll see what's in store for me.
Awesome. One thing that I saw from one of your interviews was a really great, inspiring quote that you mentioned and talked about. You can't fail unless you quit. Was there ever a moment in your career that you thought, maybe I should give up, maybe I should quit, this isn't for me? And what was something that kept you going?
Yeah, so I mean, I didn't have an exact moment where I thought, you know, this is it, I'm not doing this. But there's definitely moments where I question my approach. You know, is this the right approach? Am I doing this the right way? What kept me going is just the resiliency that I learned as a young refugee child, and you know, all those experiences that lead up to that moment, and that's what's keeping me or pushing me to keep going forward.
It's amazing. A lot of times we Afghan girls don't really see how powerful we are, but when we look at role models like you, it's really evident that we do have some sort of resilience over other people. We can use that as a competitive thing.
Absolutely.
You also talk about consistency and hard work for young women with big dreams. If you were mentoring a young woman today, which I think a lot of girls out there would love, what would be one unconventional advice that you would give them? One thing they shouldn't forget?
Oh gosh, my biggest advice would be there are no shortcuts to achieving those big dreams. So you have to be willing to put in the hard work. You have to stay consistent. And it may take some time. It may take a couple months. It may take a couple of years, but you will see the results come. So stay consistent, work hard. Don't believe the hype in social media where quick money schemes are thrown at us like every day. Just stay focused, stay consistent. Things will turn around for you.
And when you think about the Shukria that was 17-year-old, and I think we didn't talk about this, but I know it's from research. And when you wanted to become a flight attendant as your first dream job, what would you tell her when she was just a 17-year-old, ready to graduate high school and thinking of becoming a flight attendant?
Wow, don't. I would tell my younger self, you know, don't. It's not about the destination; it's about the journey. So enjoy the ride and be kind to yourself.
That resonates with me as well. This has been such a great and enriching conversation. But my final question is, and my favorite question, any final words you want to leave us with?
Yes. I think some things that I've learned from both the hospitality industry and real estate is for the young African girls, you know, occupy spaces that you traditionally do not find women, specifically African women, in. Lean in, whatever career path you take on, whether it's in the medical field, a corporate job, try to lean in and be next to the decision makers. You pick up a lot from that, you know, and be your best in whatever role that you pick. Maybe you're not on entrepreneurship is not for you. You want to stay in the corporate world. You're in the medical field, but be the best that you can be, because that will open up a lot of doors in terms of moving up down the line. You know, so always have that openness to take on more, and hopefully that will align you with your long-term goals as you go on and tackle life.
Shukria John, and it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on Nexus Talk. Your story is one that I know many people will resonate with, and they will find a lot of things that they can learn from you in your journey. So I want to thank you wholeheartedly for your time today to share your journey with us. I hope you've enjoyed our conversation. And I know many people who stayed with us till now throughout the whole episode would also leave inspired and much more informed than 30 minutes ago. So on behalf of them, thank you. Remember to stay engaged, stay informed, and keep the conversation going. Until next time on NexusTalk.